Hello, esteemed gentlemen. Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. Napoleon Bonaparte. History proves it. Some of the greatest minds didn't win battles by charging head-on, but by quietly letting others reveal their weaknesses first. And that's exactly why Sigma males often act clueless. They don't need to look like the smartest person in the room, because the moment you try to prove you're smarter than them, you're already feeding them the data they need to outsmart you. Psychologists call this strategic self-handicapping. In plain English, it's when someone pretends not to know much, just to get everyone else to spill their cards. Sigma males have perfected this into an art form. They don't wear intelligence like a neon sign, they wear it like a hidden blade. And here's the funny part. While most people think they're schooling a Sigma male, he's probably sitting there thinking, please continue your TED Talk, I'm just collecting free intel. Today we're diving into why Sigma males deliberately play the fool, how their so-called cluelessness is actually a power move, and why underestimating them is the most expensive mistake anyone can make. Number 1. They disguise strategic retreats as confusion. When a Sigma male steps back, most people misread it as weakness, defeat, or even cluelessness. But here's the truth. Retreat is often their most devastating weapon. They've mastered the art of making withdrawal look accidental, when in reality it's a calculated repositioning. People expect confrontation, they expect resistance, they expect someone to stand their ground loudly. So when a Sigma quietly backs off, it scrambles expectations. The opponent relaxes, lowers their guard, and believes the fight is already won. That's exactly when the Sigma male begins rearranging the chessboard in his favor. Unlike those who panic when things don't go their way, Sigma males rarely waste energy on proving they're right in the moment. They'd rather step away, let the situation breathe, and watch everyone else overplay their hand. In their world, retreat doesn't mean surrender. It means buying time, collecting angles, and observing who exposes their true intentions when they think the Sigma is no longer paying attention. It's the same in relationships, work, or social dynamics. If a Sigma male suddenly checks out, people assume he's lost interest or given up. In reality, he's gathering silent leverage. He sees how people behave when they believe he's no longer in the game, and those raw reactions give him priceless insight. When he finally makes his move, it's almost unfair, because no one realizes he's been planning from the shadows while they were celebrating too soon. The brilliance of this lies in disguise. He doesn't make his retreat look noble, tactical, or intentional. He lets it look like confusion, distraction, or even indifference. That performance creates the perfect cover, because no one ever suspects the man who seemed lost or disinterested was actually planning the sharpest counterstrike. This is why Sigma males don't waste time trying to win battles in real time. They're not addicted to appearances. They don't care if people laugh, mock, or think they're clueless in the moment. They know the scoreboard isn't decided mid-game. It's decided at the end. And by the time everyone realizes his retreat was just camouflage, the Sigma male has already turned the tables completely. Number 2. They master the long con of underestimation. When a Sigma male acts clueless, it's never a random act. It's part of a long game. He knows the greatest advantage in any interaction isn't being seen as the smartest in the room, but being underestimated again and again until it becomes second nature for others to overlook him. That's what makes the long con so powerful. People stop preparing for his brilliance because they've already filed him under not a threat. By the time they realize he's been hiding his real capacity, he's already several steps ahead and moving freely without resistance. Most people burn themselves out trying to prove their intelligence at every opportunity. They fight for validation, they argue endlessly, and they want recognition for every win. Sigma males are wired differently. They're willing to sit quietly in the shadows, letting others assume they're behind. That patience builds a dangerous kind of miscalculation in the minds of those around them. Arrogant people lower their defenses, ambitious rivals expose their plans openly, and self-proclaimed leaders stop seeing the Sigma as competition altogether. What looks like cluelessness is actually the careful planting of a false reputation that pays off when it matters most. The beauty of this tactic is that it requires discipline. It takes strength to let others believe they've won, to smile while being underestimated, to resist the urge to correct or prove. But Sigma males thrive in that restraint because they know every time someone underestimates them, the weight of their eventual strike multiplies. When the tables finally turn, it doesn't just surprise, it crushes. The shock alone destabilizes rivals because they built their entire confidence on the assumption that the Sigma male wasn't capable of such precision. What makes it sting even more is how clean the execution looks. There's no noise, no warnings, no build-up. One day, the same man everyone thought was clueless makes a move so sharp and final that it rewrites the narrative entirely. People call it luck, timing, or even manipulation, but it was simply the Sigma's long con cashing out. For him, cluelessness was never a weakness. It was camouflage for brilliance, and by the time the truth is revealed, everyone else is already checkmated. Number 3. They plant questions that sound naive. A Sigma male doesn't just ask questions for answers. He asks them to unlock truths people never intended to share. What makes his method so effective is the disguise of innocence. The questions are never sharp, direct, or confrontational. They're wrapped in a tone that makes him appear curious, confused, or even slightly behind. But beneath that mask, every question is a crowbar, prying open hidden doors in people's stories, testing for cracks and pulling out what lies beneath the polished surface. Most people can spot manipulation when it's obvious. If someone interrogates too directly, walls go up and defenses rise. Sigma males avoid that trap by asking questions that sound so harmless they slip past all defenses. It might sound like a request for clarity, a casual, "Why do you think that?" or a playful, "Oh, I don't get it, how does that work again?" While the other person rushes to explain, they unknowingly reveal details, motives, and vulnerabilities they would never have shared with someone who seemed obviously perceptive. The Sigma's genius here lies in the subtlety. He doesn't expose his intelligence in the moment. He lets others think they're the teacher, the authority, the guide. That sense of superiority makes people relax, and in relaxation they reveal truths they normally guard. It's not just about information, it's about psychology. People love to educate those they think are less informed, and in that urge to feel wise, they talk too much. By the time the conversation ends, the Sigma male often knows more than the person who thought they were teaching him. His so-called cluelessness is a setup, and the naive-sounding question was the bait. What he gains isn't just facts, but an entire blueprint of how people think, what they value, and where their blind spots are. The brilliance is that no one ever suspects it. They walk away believing they enlightened him, when in reality he extracted truths with surgical precision. What looked like curiosity was actually strategy, and what looked like innocence was the cleverest form of control. That's how Sigma males turn questions into weapons, subtle, silent, and devastatingly effective. Number 4. They study human ego like a science. Sigma males have a way of treating the human ego like a lab experiment. They know it's fragile, predictable, and easy to manipulate if you know which buttons to press. Acting clueless is one of their sharpest instruments because nothing excites the ego more than an audience that needs enlightenment. The moment someone believes a Sigma doesn't understand, they slip into teacher mode. They over-explain, overshare, and unintentionally reveal the inner wiring of their thoughts and motives. This is where the Sigma thrives, because he's not chasing the polished surface people show to the world, he's digging for the raw mechanics beneath it. He knows interrogation triggers resistance, but cluelessness? That's disarming. It doesn't feel like pressure, it feels like opportunity. The other person feels smarter, more powerful, and validated, and in the comfort of that ego boost, they let their guard down completely. The brilliance of this tactic lies in how invisible it is. A Sigma male doesn't need to argue, debate, or dominate a conversation. He just nudges it along with subtle nods, small questions, and the occasional look of confusion. It's not weakness, it's bait. The longer people think they're pulling him up to their level, the deeper they're actually exposing themselves. He's recording not just words, but tone, emphasis, contradictions, and slips. Every unnecessary detail they reveal becomes data for him to use later. What separates a Sigma from the average listener is how he processes that data. He doesn't just absorb information, he categorizes it. He notices the gap between what someone says and what their ego needs. He sees how they dress up insecurity as authority or how they mask greed as generosity. To most people, it's just conversation. To him, it's a map of leverage points. And the funniest part? By the end of it, the other person often walks away feeling accomplished, believing they educated the Sigma. But what really happened is the opposite. The Sigma male walked away with an X-ray of their character, all extracted without a single demand. His so-called cluelessness wasn't confusion. It was the scalpel that made the ego willingly cut itself open. Number 5, they exploit the teaching syndrome. Sigma males understand one thing most people miss: the human craving to feel smarter than someone else. It doesn't matter how powerful, intelligent, or experienced a person is. Deep down, everyone enjoys the role of teacher. That's what makes the teaching syndrome so easy to exploit. All a Sigma has to do is tilt his head, ask a simple question, or act just uninformed enough, and suddenly the other person leaps at the chance to educate him. What looks like a genuine lesson quickly turns into a confession. In their eagerness to instruct, people don't just share surface-level knowledge. They start handing out strategies, shortcuts, and even weaknesses without realizing it. They're too busy feeling validated, too focused on enjoying the role of expert. To them, it's harmless bragging dressed up as teaching. To the Sigma male, it's free intelligence being dumped straight into his hands. The trick lies in the restraint. A Sigma doesn't challenge, correct, or interrupt. He plays along, nods at the right times, maybe even asks a follow-up that sounds innocent, but is really a scalpel digging deeper. The teacher feels brilliant, but what they don't realize is that the Sigma is using their pride as a funnel, and because pride blinds them, they reveal things they would normally guard with their life if they felt they were speaking to a true equal. This is why Sigma males rarely compete openly. Why wrestle for dominance when you can simply let the other person's ego hand you the playbook? By the time the so-called teacher finishes their performance, the Sigma male has not only learned what they know, but also identified their weak spots, their blind spots, and the gaps in their strategy. The irony is cruel but effective. While others are busy showing off what they know, the Sigma male is collecting, categorizing, and quietly outpacing them. They walk away thinking they've done him a favor, but he walks away holding leverage they'll never suspect he has. Cluelessness, in this case, is the mask that turns teachers into unwitting informants. And for a Sigma male, that's the easiest win of all. Number 6, they hide knowledge to preserve power. A Sigma male understands that the moment people sense you know too much, they start putting on masks. They edit their words, polish their behavior, and shift into performance mode. That ruins the flow of truth. To prevent this, Sigma males deliberately hide how much they know. They'll sit quietly in meetings, ask questions they already know the answers to, or let others believe they're catching on slowly. It's not incompetence, it's preservation of power. Knowledge in its rawest form is only available when people feel unobserved or superior. The second they feel studied, they distort themselves to look better, smarter, or stronger. Sigma males avoid triggering that self-protective reflex. By playing it low-key, they keep people talking freely, unfiltered, unaware that their every word is being logged and analyzed. That's why they often appear detached or disinterested. It tricks others into showing their hand completely. The beauty of this restraint is that it multiplies the Sigma's advantage over time. While others rush to prove how much they know, burning credibility in the process, the Sigma keeps his cards close. He doesn't flaunt, he doesn't correct, and he doesn't expose the full depth of his perception. This way, when he does act, it looks effortless, because no one realized how long he had been connecting the dots in silence. It's also a shield against manipulation. When people underestimate what a Sigma male sees, they assume he's easier to fool. They reveal tactics, test tricks, and push boundaries that they'd never risk against someone openly sharp. In doing so, they end up handing him the blueprint of their behavior without even realizing it. By hiding his knowledge, he doesn't just preserve power, he amplifies it. And when the moment comes where the truth has to be revealed, the shock is seismic. What looked like a man trailing behind suddenly turns into someone who had been 10 steps ahead the entire time. That's the Sigma's silent advantage. Knowledge hoarded in shadows, disguised by an act of cluelessness, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Until then, he keeps absorbing the raw, unfiltered truths that everyone else is too eager to spill. Number 7. They flip pity into protection. When most people sense weakness, their instincts shift. Some step in to protect, others look away, and a few even underestimate so deeply that they stop treating the person as competition. Sigma males know this pattern and quietly turn it into a weapon. By letting others think he's a little lost, distracted, or behind, a Sigma male triggers pity, or at least lowers himself beneath suspicion. Suddenly the same people who might have challenged him start shielding him, making excuses for him, or dismissing him as irrelevant. What looks like vulnerability is actually invisible armor. This tactic works because pity alters perception. When someone feels like they're dealing with a struggler, their guard drops. They stop measuring their words, they soften their tone, and they become less aggressive. In group dynamics, it's even more powerful. The so-called strong personalities rush to defend or guide the clueless Sigma, all while exposing their dominant strategies in the process. The ones who underestimate him write him off as no threat, which means they no longer monitor his movements closely. Either way, he wins room to maneuver without resistance. It also serves as a cloak against envy and sabotage. People rarely attack what they pity. No one feels threatened by the man they think is still figuring things out. That space gives the Sigma time to gather information, test the environment, and prepare his moves without attracting unnecessary hostility. By the time others realize he was never behind, it's already too late. He's built enough momentum to move without their interference. The brilliance is in the patience. A Sigma doesn't rush to correct false assumptions. He doesn't argue when people underestimate him, nor does he fight when someone takes the lead on his behalf. He lets them believe what they want, because their protection, their underestimation, and their misplaced guidance all serve as cover. In the end, pity shields him better than power displays ever could. And when the moment comes for him to reveal his real position, everyone is blindsided. The same armor they unknowingly gave him becomes the reason they never saw the strike coming. Number 8. They camouflage as non-threatening. Sigma males understand something most people miss. Power draws fire. The louder you flaunt your strength, the more enemies line up to test it. That's why they rarely show the full force of their intelligence or capability. Instead, they camouflage as non-threatening, blending into the background while everyone else fights for attention. By appearing harmless, they bypass the envy, rivalry, and sabotage that usually comes with standing out too early. This isn't weakness, it's calculation. When people assume a Sigma male isn't a competitor, they stop monitoring him. Rivals ignore him, leaders underestimate him, and opportunists look elsewhere for targets. That invisibility becomes his protection. While others waste time defending their status or proving their brilliance, the Sigma operates under the radar, stacking advantages quietly. When he finally reveals what he's capable of, it feels like an ambush because no one saw it coming. What makes this camouflage so effective is that it feeds into human bias. People love easy categories, strong or weak, leader or follower, threat or harmless. Sigma males exploit that mental shortcut. They present themselves as neutral, unassuming, maybe even detached. Most people take that at face value and move on, never realizing they've just ignored the sharpest player in the room. This also spares them from the social tax that comes with flexing. Flashy confidence attracts attention, but also resentment. Loud intelligence invites debates, challenges, and constant tests. Sigma males avoid that circus. They don't need validation, so they let others take the spotlight and the backlash that comes with it. Meanwhile, their silence is working like camouflage netting, hiding how much ground they're actually covering. By the time people recognize the threat, it's usually too late. The Sigma has already gathered knowledge, built leverage, and positioned himself where sabotage can't touch him. That's the cruel efficiency of seeming harmless. Nobody tries to strike until he's too far ahead to be stopped. In a world obsessed with proving dominance, the Sigma's quiet neutrality becomes his most lethal disguise. It's not that he isn't a threat. It's that he's learned the smartest threats are the ones no one notices until the end. Number 9. They let others burn energy first. Sigma males know that in every competition, whether it's social, professional, or personal, the biggest mistake most people make is rushing to prove themselves. They throw out their best arguments first, show off their skills too soon, and burn through their energy trying to dominate the spotlight. A Sigma male doesn't play that game. He waits, he watches. He lets the storm of noise and ego play out while he conserves his strength. By the time everyone else is exhausted, overexposed, and careless, that's when he makes his move. This approach works because human nature is predictable. The hunger for recognition pushes people to reveal too much, too early. In a debate, they give away their strongest points in the first round. At work, they expose their strategy before it's time. In relationships, they reveal their vulnerabilities too fast. Sigma males don't see patience as delay. They see it as power. Timing is everything, and silence is their fuel. While others scramble for attention, a Sigma male is studying patterns. Who's insecure? Who's overconfident? Who's secretly hiding weakness under loud gestures? By standing back, he gets a clearer view of the entire battlefield while everyone else is distracted by their own performance. The more chaos unfolds, the sharper his clarity becomes. When he finally acts, it looks almost unfair. People who spent all their energy posturing can't understand how he still has the strength to strike with precision. They confuse it with luck or natural talent, but it's really just patience weaponized. He didn't waste time in the noise, so his timing cuts like a blade through butter. The brilliance of this method is that it doesn't just win battles, it prevents unnecessary ones. By the time a Sigma steps in, the competitors have already drained each other, and he only has to make the final decisive move. That's why his victories often look effortless, not because he had no challenges, but because he let others fight themselves into weakness. While they wasted energy proving themselves, he preserved his, and that conservation is what makes his timing lethal. Number 10. They play the fool to escape expectations. Sigma males know that the quickest way to get trapped isn't failure, it's success. The moment the world sees you as too capable, it starts piling on expectations. You're suddenly responsible for fixing problems, carrying teams, or living up to standards that cage you. Sigma males refuse that burden, and the way they dodge it is deceptively simple. They play the fool. By appearing slightly detached, distracted, or less invested, they lower the bar others set for them. And in doing so, they buy themselves something far more valuable than praise: freedom. This tactic is subtle but powerful. When people think you can handle everything, they demand more from you, they rely on you, and they start measuring your worth against perfection. But when they think you're not quite there, they stop asking, stop expecting, and stop hovering. That's the space Sigma males want, the breathing room to move on their own terms, not under the weight of someone else's demands. It's not about laziness or incompetence, it's about control. By escaping the cage of expectation, Sigma males can choose where to put their energy. They're not stuck proving themselves in every situation or constantly defending their reputation. Instead, they focus only on what matters to them. To outsiders, this looks like aimless wandering or aloofness, but beneath the surface, it's ruthless selectivity. And here's the irony. When a Sigma finally decides to show his true capability, it shocks everyone. Because expectations were lowered, his results look twice as impressive. People are left wondering how the quiet one suddenly outperformed those who bragged about their skills non-stop. That shock is part of the design. By hiding under lowered expectations, the Sigma multiplies the impact of his eventual reveal. The brilliance is that the fool's mask doesn't weaken him, it shields him. It protects him from constant demands, shields him from envy, and lets him operate without pressure. In a world obsessed with proving competence, the Sigma male flips the script. He pretends not to carry the weight, so no one tries to load it on his shoulders. And in that hidden freedom, he moves smarter, lighter, and far more dangerously than anyone expects. Number 11. They drain competitors of patience. Few things are more maddening than trying to outsmart someone who seems too slow to catch on. Sigma males use this frustration as a silent weapon. By pretending not to fully understand, they force rivals to repeat themselves, explain in detail, and push harder than they need to. Over time, that effort drains patience. The rival, believing the Sigma just doesn't get it, grows restless, annoyed, and careless. That shift from control to irritation is where the Sigma wins. Impatience is the enemy of precision. When someone is frustrated, they stop thinking clearly and start reacting emotionally. They rush explanations, skip over details, and eventually make mistakes they'd never make if they felt calm and composed. Sigma males thrive in this chaos, because while their rival burns energy trying to prove a point, the Sigma is conserving his. He listens, observes, and lets the emotional unraveling play out like a slow collapse. This tactic works especially well because rivals underestimate its intentionality. They assume the Sigma is genuinely confused or lagging, so they don't realize their own composure is being dismantled. The longer the Sigma stays clueless, the more unbalanced the other side becomes. In arguments, this means a rival blurts out something they shouldn't. In negotiations, it means they concede points out of impatience. In social settings, it means they reveal irritation that damages their image. Every mistake is an opening, and the Sigma is waiting quietly to step through. The brilliance lies in restraint. Most people can't stand being underestimated, but Sigma males lean into it. They don't mind looking slow in the moment if it means their rival self-destructs in the process. To them, patience isn't just a virtue. It's a weapon sharper than direct confrontation. By the time the rival realizes what's happened, it's already too late. Their energy is spent, their position is weaker, and the Sigma has all the leverage without breaking a sweat. What looked like cluelessness was actually a psychological game designed to drain patience until mistakes flowed naturally. And for Sigma males, that's the easiest win, letting others sabotage themselves while they sit quietly watching. Number 12. They trade spotlight for X-ray vision. Sigma males know that attention is a double-edged sword. The more you shine, the more people project onto you. Envy, rivalry, suspicion, even sabotage. That's why they rarely compete for the spotlight. Instead, they step back, let others bask in recognition, and quietly study the ripple effects. What most see as passivity is really strategy. By staying invisible, they gain an unfiltered view of how people really act when no one's watching them in return. This invisibility becomes a form of X-ray vision. Without the pressure of an audience on him, the Sigma can observe others under theirs. He sees who crumbles when the spotlight gets too bright, who thrives only when praised, and who bends the truth to maintain their image. Every twitch, slip, and nervous reaction becomes data. Because he's not performing himself, he notices details performers can't afford to see. The brilliance here lies in freedom. When you're in the spotlight, you're stuck maintaining it. You can't afford to stumble, doubt, or experiment. But when you step back like a Sigma, you move without expectation. You can test, probe, and observe with no one scrutinizing your every move. That lack of scrutiny gives the Sigma an edge sharper than applause ever could. What makes this even more lethal is timing. While others waste energy proving themselves, the Sigma is mapping weaknesses, cataloging patterns, and waiting. By the time he decides to act, he knows not just the surface of people's personalities, but the cracks beneath them. His invisibility isn't passive, it's predatory. And when he finally steps forward, it shocks people. The quiet man they thought was irrelevant suddenly moves with precision, as if he had read their entire playbook. That's because he had. While they were chasing validation, he was watching, recording, and learning. The spotlight blinded them, his invisibility sharpened him. In a world obsessed with being seen, Sigma males flipped the script. They'd rather be underestimated in the shadows than overexposed in the light. Because in the shadows they gain the clearest vision, and that vision is what allows them to strike with devastating accuracy when the time is right. In the end, the so-called cluelessness of a Sigma male is nothing but a mask. one carefully designed to protect his freedom, sharpen his vision, and outmaneuver everyone who underestimates him. What others mistake for weakness is really strategy. The silence that exposes arrogance, the retreat that sets up the strike, the naive questions that unlock hidden truths, and the harmless disguise that shields him from envy and sabotage. Every act of playing small is really a move in a larger game only he can see. While the world wastes energy proving itself, the Sigma collects data. While rivals burn out chasing validation, he patiently conserves his power. And while everyone else laughs at the fool, he's quietly writing the ending they never saw coming. That's why being underestimated is never a curse for a Sigma male. It's the greatest camouflage he could ask for, because when the mask finally drops, it's never just a reveal. It's a checkmate. So the next time you think a Sigma doesn't get it, remember this. That clueless smile may be the very thing hiding the sharpest mind in the room. And by the time you realize it, he's already 3 steps ahead. If you enjoyed this breakdown of why Sigma males act clueless, but secretly outsmart everyone, don't just scroll past. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next mind-shifting video. Smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and share this with someone who needs to see the truth behind the Sigma mask. Every interaction helps this channel grow, and your support keeps these powerful insights coming your way.